at night.
I think it's the same.
The geeks come out at night. The geeks come out at night. Geeks come out. The geeks come out at night.
Pretty good. Who's done? All right, ready? 3, 2.
Hello once again, and I am speaking to you here live from the basement, and we are hoping that you are able to hear me, Michael Curtis, and my companion,
Brendan LaSalle, at your service. Technical whiz kid.
After some technical difficulties, it will take a moment, however, for the Twitch channel to populate, and we will start getting feedback whether they can hear us or not. So, whoop, I am hearing a whoop from the Twitch. So apparently we are back, but whether they can hear us or not, yes, they can hear us. Brendan, will you speak to these fine people?
Nobody knows the tech crap I've seen. Nobody knows but Bill.
So out there in Chile, we can hear you loud and clear, so we can hear both. Excellent. It sounds like we have a show going then today. All right, perfect. Thank you very much for your patience, and thank you for coming back. I'm glad you started to rejoin this. So hopefully we'll get through this in the normal little time. So Brendan, hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Oh man, doing great. It's been a really interesting week. I've actually had my best writing today as I've had of the entire quarantine, and frankly, since I turned in X Crawl Classics and working on some Dark Trails and having fun. And I was in your game this weekend. It was super cool. I had a great time. And I played something else too. I can't think of it. I played another game. I played a lot of games. How about you, Mike? How's everything been, bro?
It has been a good week. It has been obviously, it has been a very interesting week in the ongoing War Crawl campaign. So the dice were not kind to some people. The dice were very kind to other people. So that's always good to see how things are going to swing. Especially 2 weeks in, we have 8 more weeks to see the fate of the multiverse. We'll see how that all develops. I can't wait to see how that is going. And I'm kind of hesitant to say anything about this, but kind of in geek adjacent news is that this week I have started in on my first novel. So that is I've been kind of doing some lead up to that, and this is the week I started getting hard numbers down, and I'm hoping by end of October I might have a solid first draft.
Hell yeah.
But I figure, if all goes well, if all continues to go horribly wrong, I will feel bad if I don't use this quarantine for something productive. So yeah. So it's been a good week then. I can't complain. And speaking of good weeks and adjacent, I hear that there's somebody in the LaSalle family who has great news this week as well.
Absolutely. So if you are a fan of the show, then perhaps you really enjoy our wonderful theme song. That theme song is, of course, performed by my sister, Alexis LaSalle, and her companion, Michael Thornton, and we're grateful to both of them. And this week, my sister and Michael and her other friends perform in the Butterworth Blues Band. And this week, their first album has come out. It's very hard to see because of the basement background radiation. But it is the Butterworth Blues Band. The name of the album is Mama's Full Stack. Let's see, there we go. Mama's Full Stack is the name of the record. I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of my sister. And if you're interested, it's available on CD Baby and soon to be available on Spotify. And it represents, I actually have a songwriting credit on one of the songs there. I wrote some lyrics for my sister. So I know, right?
All right, man.
Yeah, so I got that going for me. So whatever else, So so proud of Alexis. She's fantastic. They're wonderful to see live. And if you get the opportunity, I recommend checking the album out and just being a part of the Georgia blues scene if you can be. So
cool.
So, thank you, Alexis.
I wish her and her companion the best of luck with this, and we're still very grateful that they put their talents together and gave us our 30-second parody that we kick off every episode with. So
it's wonderful. I couldn't be happier with it.
That's good. That's good news. That's so. So now having conquered at least apparently our technical difficulties of the week, Oh, by the way, if you're out there listening and you have any production credits and if you want to work behind the scenes for free for Keep Crawling with Mike and Brendan and figure out what we're doing wrong, send your resume to Brendan@GoodmanGames.com.
Yep, you will be paid in fleeting luck, and that's all I got.
Oh,
So,
yeah, that's pretty much all we have. So
that's all we have.
oh, but you know what? Somebody else has something out there. Somebody else has something worth mentioning. I think that while you're busy shotgunning your beer, or whatever
LaQuasi.
Oh, of course, coconut.
I'm out. I had to go with a pastique. I guess it's watermelon. It's not bad. It's not
No,
coconut.
okay. So do we have anything lined up for Treasure Type U this week, Brendan?
We absolutely do. So this one, I'm really proud to share with you because I am indirectly involved. So get ready, hold on to your socks if you're watching there from home, because here comes Treasure Type U coming at you. Okay, so Gen Con, I believe it was 2018, we had a booth prize where if you spun the wheel or rolled a die, I guess it was, if you got a certain number came up, we would take your picture and we would turn you into a Dungeon Crawl Classics monster. I got assigned the very first one from my very dear friend, Dr. Alan White. So Dr. Alan White, he's a hardcore gamer, an amazing engineer, and he actually he organized Rose-Hulman University's Creativity Con, and of which I was the keynote speaker. He had me down there and let me talk about creativity and run some games, and I ran my first workshop, which was an absolutely amazing experience, and it led to the adventure we published about the Misguided Menace of Big George. I'm not exactly the name. Anyway, so they gave it to me, and Joseph, wanted it like done ASAP. So I had my dear buddy and arch enemy, Valerie Emmons, do the illustration, and I wrote up the monster, and we actually presented it to, I think I did it between games, and we actually presented it to Alan actually the same day that we got the assignment, which I was pretty proud of because we knocked it out pretty good. And I mean, that's a playable monster. The engineer of evil who can create with but a thought, can create evil traps that just appear around you and drop you into pits and hot lava, kind of Ferris wheels and things. We're real proud of it. So we presented it to Dr. Alan White. He loved it. And then his wife, here's part two, had a custom miniature made of that monster. So there is the Engineer of Evil done as a custom mini. I wish I knew the name of the mini maker. I do not. But I think that's fantastic. He's there on his cogwheel because he's an engineer. He's got plans. They didn't get the hair right, but
Hey.
Look how evil, though.
Right. It's hard to reproduce reality at 28 millimeter scale.
It really is. It really is. But they reproduced the evil pretty good, I think. And I got a picture of the back too. So look at that. For scale,
green stuff hair on there. Hey, fix it up, no problem.
Absolutely. So I was super proud to be a part of this one this time, and I was really grateful for Dr. White for sending that my way. One of my absolute favorite people. Such a good dude. I hope he's watching tonight. I hope he gets. Let's all include the Engineer of Evil in your home games. He should just show up and ruin someone's life at your gaming table. So there we go.
I think he's actually doing our sound tonight. I think that's the issue.
He's got three knobs that say despair, horror, and torment. He's just turning them. Yep, that's us.
Oh, so yeah, this is so now slowly apparently we're overcome that, and we're moving along, and I think it's time maybe for us to settle in and talk about what we theoretically gathered here to talk about tonight, and that's a little bit that Brendan and I have we like to call that Mike and Brendan are the worst,
Yeah.
and we would love to say that the entire false start of this was all an elaborate introduction to this, but unfortunately, we just really are the worst. So
Yeah,
so
and tech stuff, man, tech stuff. And I literally, I didn't change any settings. I tried them all, put them back, turned it off, turned it on, and we're back on. So that was the engineer of evil, who I'm blaming for all of my tech problems going forward in perpetuity.
wait, you said tech problems, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you might have said something else there. That's a whole different show.
No.
No. Oh, so Brendan, why are we going to talk about why we are the worst tonight?
We are going to talk about why we are the worst because while I think a lot of people in the gaming community regard us as these kind of uber gamers who have been gaming forever and who never put a foot out of place, we didn't start this way. We started off like everybody else from zero, and in some cases less than zero. Brother here, and it's only through a very, very long expenditure of will and making a ton of mistakes that we got to where we are today as game runners, as game designers, and let's face it, as talk show hosts.
Yeah, that is true, and I think this is something that really needs to be discussed even more nowadays, because there's a lot of people who are getting into this hobby. I mean, I meet people at conventions who they love role playing, but they have never actually played a role playing game, and you think like, what kind of craziness is that? But we're talking about people whose entire introduction to the hobby has been through, Critical Role and and the D&D Twitch channel, and all the kind of these elaborate productions of these games, which are games as entertainment, and they have the players are, in many cases, they are actors, or they're comedians, or the people who are used to performing. They have a dungeon master who is either has some performing background themselves, or is just like us and just has had a buttload of hard earned experience. So there are people who kind of come into the hobby, and they expect, like, oh my god, like I have to run my very first game, it has to be like Critical Role quality, it has to be like like Matt Mercer quality, it has to be and that's not the case. I mean, it's like what you see on TV and what you see in reality are two different things. But that's not to say that you can't eventually get to that kind of that TV quality game mastering. But there's along the way, there is a whole bunch of missteps that we have to do along the way. So we thought that we would draw some attention to Brendan and my own personal little foibles and mistakes and catastrophes that we have kind of performed over the years of our gaming, and talk about what we did wrong, how we would not do it wrong this time, what we might have learned from it, and just basically show, hey, we have feet of clay ourselves. We are just we're just a very important lesson I learned at the start of this industry, when I was hanging out with industry people, and like, kind of came in there all fan-eyed and everything, and everybody's just like, no man, we're just gamers, so we're all gamers. So hey, so let's talk about why we are the worst. Brendan, do you want to start off with an anecdote about like what in your opinion, what your worst thing you ever did as a game master might have been, or would you like me to begin?
I'm happy to go first and share my shame with all of you. And this is especially shameful because this didn't happen my first year. Now, I have made every mistake of game mastering over my time in doing this. I have dropped in godlike NPCs. I have been obscure. I have gotten frustrated with my players and went like used in-game stuff to work out my out-of-game problems with my friends. Every dumb mistake, every bad thing you can do as a DM, I have touched on at some point in my career. But this is something I want to share that took place after I have been doing this professionally for a few years, and really, really dropped the ball. So I don't know if you remember, Mike, but in the early days when I first started looking at converting X-Crawl to the Dungeon Crawl Classics rules, I had it in my head that you couldn't just do a straight conversion of old DCC. So I came up with this setting that I was calling X-Crawl Apocalypse. And it was like X-Crawl after the world had fallen, everyone was living amongst the ruins, and the sorcerer kings of this latter day were trying to put the world back together by wagging the dog. They were going to recreate the greatest achievement of the old world, X-Crawl itself, and then use that to kind of like restore civilization. So, there were slave gladiators and, fights and guns, and there was a whole, the scenario wasn't bad, I certainly mean to revisit it at some point. But what had happened in this particular instance is that I was playing with some real canny players at Origins, some folks that I played with quite a few times who were very, very, very good players. And I wish I actually had their names, but I tried actually discovering them today and couldn't figure them all out. So, but let's just leave it to say some really good players that I have been with on many occasions. And they threw me for a loop. Rather than, at one point they get sent off to go on this one mission for the X-Crawl Masters, and rather than do what they're saying they're going to do, they engineered this wonderful escape. They went over to to one of the Native American tribes that were out there, that have come in and are once again flourishing after the war, and they made friends with them, and they convinced them to join their cause, and they actually, with them and all their slave gladiator friends, went back to make war against this citadel when they got up, to like where they come from, which is actually Reno, Nevada. And when they got there, I was literally scrambling. Like I was not ready for this. I had not given one thought to the city's defenses, what it would look like, and I started to scribble some stuff, and the players gave me an out. They were like, "Listen, I realize this is going kind of sideways. If you want, we can go ahead and just reset back to then, and we'll go forward. We'll just act like this didn't happen." And without thinking about it, I was like, "Oh yeah, guys, that would be so great." And then we jumped back in to what was then could be nothing but an incredibly, let down, incredibly drop down, depressing kind of a scenario, because they had done something really creative and really interesting. And rather than run with it, rather than lean into it and just figure out something to do to keep that cool story my players had managed to come up with, I chickened out and I went the opposite direction. And when they offered me an out, I said yes, and went back and ran my little adventure. And that was just sad. It was cowardly and sad. It disrespected all the cool stuff the players had done. And I walked away from the table just ashamed, just like, I can't believe I did that. And I swore I would never do it again. I hope I really learned from that. Like, that was the last time. I won't say I've never done anything like that before, but that was the time where I was like, okay, I cannot do this again. And I went and really did some soul searching about my game style and everything. And I feel like I've come a long way. I hope I've learned those lessons and taken them to heart. But Lord knows, I'm nobody's perfect. So.
Right. So like how much of like game time did you lose because of that? I mean, was this like an hour? Was this like
this was 15? A crucial half an hour to 4 hour session, on the back end, you know what I mean? So after the break, right. Half an hour, and essentially rather than there's a million ways I could have come up with something for them to do that would have continued the story, even if it wasn't in the way they were planning it, but in a way that I could have done it and made it work. And like I said, I just dropped the ball. So we lost like at least a half an hour of game time, and essentially made it where all of these cool things these players had done, this very good role playing and negotiation with the Comanches, that it all was for naught, and it was some shameful nonsense.
Right. That's I can sympathize with that. I mean, because it, especially like in a convention setting where you already have like that pressure to kind of just you're trying to deliver a good game. It's not like you're going to have it's not like you have an off night and then try to make up for it next week because it's your regular group. So I could see the why it would be attractive, just to kind of basically you premise reject, which is usually, I mean, that's a player facing problem, like we come up with this great idea and the player's like, nah, we're not going to do that. But in this case in this case it's actually they come up with this great idea, and they offered it to you to say, hey, we're let's, if you look like you're struggling here, I mean, which was kind of them. But I mean, I guess you're always, they'll go to your grave think like, what if I just rolled with it? That would have been even more memorable, because they knew that they would have had this once, this unique experience. Like nobody else was going to pull off this grand plan to make this happen. They would have gone on the loose rails that every convention game is, more or less. So
Oh, totally.
that's
Yeah,
yeah.
it was awful. And like looking back, even if I had done something, I think about the negative opportunity cost. What was the next worst thing I could have done? The next worst thing I could have done would have been like to surrender, where say, okay, we'll do one die roll, high low. You guys roll higher than me. Oh my God, you guys brought the city to its knees, and now the sorcerer king. You know what I mean? I could have just, you know what I mean? Like just, that would have been the, you know. But even that, even as kind of like weak as that would have been, it would have still told their story, and they would have come out ahead, and they could have like gone home with the story and said, "Oh my God, we totally turned the scenario on its head." And instead of going where it went to, you know, we took over the city, and it got kind of a little, you know, hand wavy there at the end. But you know, what are you gonna do? And
Right.
I did the other thing.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I don't blame you. I mean, I've been in that. I've been, especially. I'm sure this wasn't your first convention game, your first day game of the convention. So I mean, if it comes about Saturday, you're a little burnt out as it is and everything, and then people trying to expect you to do this, and I can see bailing, pulling the ripcord, like, okay, let's go, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but that's. I mean, that definitely has to hurt, but. But as you said, now you went through a period of soul searching because of that, and had to figure out, okay, what would I do this again, and what would I do if if this came up again, and and I think, hell, I mean, you're already a great game master, and and since this happened relatively recently, I mean, you're all the much better for it. So.
Yeah. It was definitely formative. You know, I walked out of there saying, you know, if I want to be a professional at this, I really have to never let anything like that ever happen to me again, and never let my players down like that again. And while I'm sure I've let players down in other ways, I haven't repeated that mistake since, and that I'm grateful for. You know.
Right. It's good. It's
So,
good.
how about you, Mike? I bet you got a story too.
I do have it. Mine actually does kind of go further back into my role playing career. This was in 10th grade, and it's although that was an awful long time ago, that was years ago, but it's one of those things that I still dwell upon it now. I mean, it doesn't keep me up at night, but I'm like, okay, maybe I mishandled that, but. So this was my 10th. I was in 10th grade. I was running a regular AD&D game, and it was kind of like we had played a lot of D&D with me and the other guys in the neighborhood, but this was like the first kind of big. We had like, I think, like 8 people in that group, and it was it was mixed genders too. I mean, it wasn't quite 50-50, but it was at least like 2/3 guys and 1/3 the 2 women. So I mean, and that was just a big thing in 10th grade. So we were having a lot of fun. Everybody was really invested in the campaign, and we had started off at the very like it might have even been the first adventure, but the party was exploring this ruin, and there was a lich. It was like it was old, like school of wizardry, and there was like a lich still involved there, and he had his big lich spell book. But the thing was, is he was just so he was like he had been he had been a lich forever, and he was just focused on doing his research and doing his his scholarly studies and everything like that. So basically, although it's a first level adventure and there's like this 18th level lich in there, if you don't if you leave him alone, he's not even aware that you're there. Like, he's so wrapped up in what he's doing. So of course, this is all going on, and the magic user in the party decides, hey, there's a big ass spell book there, and there's a lich who's not really paying attention to it. So decides that they're going to take off with the spell book, and they do, because the lich is busy elsewhere. So I'm like, all right, so they take off with them. Like, that's cool. That's really brave of them. And I said, the light bulb goes off in my head. It's like, it'll because the lich is so focused, it's going to take him a little while to figure out, like, oh my god, somebody has stolen my spell book. So perfect, ongoing, like ongoing big bad guy. Like, he could be like the guy who through the course of the campaign, like I can see like he was trying to track them down and everything, and then once the characters finally get up to like where they're like 10th level or 11th level or anything like that, maybe just have him like he'll be like the big bad, like we'll wrap up the campaign with him. So that was that everything was good early on in the campaign. Campaign had gone on for a little while. I guess they had gotten up to like 6th or 7th level at that point. And they had played smart. They had gotten because they knew that there was a lich goes after them, so they had managed to get like an amulet of protection from scrying. So like the Lich couldn't find them in like his, spells or crystal ball or whatever he had there. But it was imperfect. It was like there was like a 1 in 20 chance that it wouldn't work. But they got it at a cut rate. So what are you gonna do? They were in the course of adventure. I think we were running through Desert of Desolations at that point, and they were in a corridor, and there was like a big door. There was like a big solid stone door, and they were trying to get through the door, and they were just not having any luck. Trying to find. I don't remember if it was pick the lock, or if it was like magically barred, or they had to find like a MacGuffin somewhere in the tomb to open up or anything. So they were getting frustrated. So the ranger of the part, like getting frustrated, he just like in character, he yells out like the Lich's name, like blaming the Lich for them stymieing him. I said, okay, the old thing in D&D was like if you invoke the name of a powerful entity, there was like a 5% chance they would hear you or something like that. I said, all right, sure, why not? Roll the die, roll a 20-sided die. 1 comes up. So I rule that the necklace had failed at this point. So everything is perfect. That soul setup is cool, and it's here where it goes off the rails. Is that I decided at that moment that the Lich appears in the hallway, and not only does he appear in the hallway, he appears like behind them a decent ways back and everything. And him being an 18th level Lich and having all access to all sorts of powerful, start just bombarding them with fireballs and lightning bolts. And I think like the first fireball took out 1 or 2 of the PCs, and then basically everything else that dropped on them wiped out the rest of them. So 30 seconds campaign of at least had to be 6 months, 6-8 months or anything, comes to a screeching halt. TPK campaign is over. And, and that has I've always been, not initially, but the more and more I thought about it, is like, that was the wrong choice. That was the wrong choice of how to adjudicate that, so not only, so I still kind of to this day, I go to the philosophy that a TPK is a failure of everybody. It's not just like the player screwed up, but it's also like the game master screwed up as well, because there's ways that you could kind of avoid this, or So, and in retrospect, I realize that I think subconsciously I was getting tired with the campaign. I mean, it had been going on a lot, but doing DM stuff is a lot of work. I mean, and I'm 10th grade. I have a social life too. I can't just be doing D&D stuff anymore. I'm not in middle school anymore. So I think like I was getting a little kind of tired with the campaign, and I was trying. I think, although I might not have been aware of it, on the level, like consciously, I think deep down inside I was looking for an out. And this gave me like the perfect, opportunity. And I could say, hey, I rolled a 1 on the die. The thing failed. He hears you. He shows up and everything, which is a poor ass excuse. I mean, this is, I killed the party, and I said, and there's a lot of, you hear a lot of old school DMs like, DMs don't kill the parties kill the party. Like, no, in this case, I killed the party. I mean, I didn't do it maliciously. I did it what I thought would have been a rational, like a realistic sequence of events.
Word.
But in retrospect, no, it was not. I took it into case like this Lich was just constantly scrying for the party, looking at any single moment, like just waiting for the crack to appear in their armor, and he was ready to spring into action. Like the Lich signal would go off, and he would know exactly where they were and everything. Right. And I think that was definitely the wrong way to do it. I think what I if I had to do it again, I would have the scrying the protection from scrying amulet fails. The Lich, bing, okay, gets an inkling that he gets like there's a trembling in the force. This guy, the one character called out his name. So, and now at that point, the scheme begins to unfold. Like he now begins to like, okay, like I think I know where these guys are, and now is a prolonged campaign of revenge going on. Like, at first, like he'll, like hired goons show up trying to get the spell book back or something, or hired goons could be, ghouls or something, because I mean he's a Lich or anything like that. But if I had to do it again, I would make that like the focus of the campaign. Like it would have been like, well, not the focus of the campaign, but it would have been now driving the plot. So so now the players would have this, this guy's after us now. Like, now what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Are we going to take the fight to him? Are we going to turtle up? Are we going to try to go to ground or anything? And that would have been much more satisfying for everybody involved, rather than, oh, I failed my saving throw, and so you take 47 points of damage from a fireball. So I have it's not the worst mistake a DM could ever make, but it's been one of those ones that does stick with me. And going forward, I think I've always tried to, if it's a campaign, yes, I will always try to make things survivable in a way, or at least, make it so, it just a single bad dice roll does not, end an entire campaign. Convention game is a little different, especially if it's Saturday night and I've got working on 3 hours of sleep, and I get a chance to get out of here in 3 hours rather than 4. I will take it. I'm only human. But that's like the biggest. My biggest regret I have ever done as a game master, and I don't think I will ever live that down. At least personally. I mean, I'm sure my players may have long forgotten. I'm not in contact with them anymore. So, but I hope they're not waking up in the middle like Curtis. But I don't think that'll happen. So, but
one day you're gonna get home and your necklace is gonna fail. You're gonna ring the doorbell and you'll be like, "All right, Michael," and they'll have like flamethrowers. You like fireballs, huh?
They'll show up in the Twitch one day. We heard you have a show. We have a bone to pick with you about a certain Lich. Back what happened in 1988.
Yeah. Ugh. No, I hear you. Well, but I mean, it sounds like though that you have learned the lesson of that particular mistake, which is all you can ask for, or something like that, I think.
Yes, I have definitely. Yep, I've learned my lesson. So that's the worst. So aside from doing horrible mistakes in the actual game mastering process, I think we talked about this a little bit, kind of in the purpose of what we're going into. Is there, like, aside from like just mistakes, do you have bad habits, as a DM, like stuff that you are aware of and you're trying to overcome, and are aware of it?
The one thing that happens, and this is kind of a function of like, very often I will create an adventure and then I'll run it like, over the course of 3 years, I might run it 60 or 70 times, and sometimes I will get impatient and I will try to, it's a bad habit. I'll sort of like, give out too many, like, prompt too hard. I'll be like, all right, so, there's nothing wrong with, I think if everyone's dilly-dallying and if the players have lost momentum a little bit because they're confused, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, okay, so if I'm understanding this right, everyone, you guys are going to get it together and you're going to go inside after he lights the torch. Is that right? Like, I think that's a good prompt. You know what I mean? Like, where everyone, okay, yeah, that's right, what we're going to do. All right, we're moving on. But a not good prompt is, okay, so you have that, remember in that last room, you had that book in your backpack, though. Maybe you want to look in there? Like, that's a very extreme example of it, but I find myself doing kind of micro versions of that in adventure sometimes. And I had it pointed out to me by someone who played with me for reasons in one game like 3 or 4 times. And since then, I've been really trying to work on that. That's something like, just sort of like let it take, let people make mistakes, let people, do it their way, and be open to them finishing an adventure in a different way than I had imagined that an adventure would get finished up.
Right.
That's a bad habit. I think you and I are both at the point where we've done this so many times and for so long that you get to where you're fine tuning. You know what I mean? And I think the difference, I think the correct, like you don't put any prompts out there at all. Especially with a group, if they're a little bit shy, maybe they don't know each other and they're having a hard time syncing up, it can make the game go very, very slowly, and then no one's having a good time. No one walks away with a good story. So I think prompting just the right amount, just a little bit to kind of like, when it's clear what they want to do, but they're all kind of like, either they're making jokes and small talk, or they just don't know, like no one wants to step up and be the boss and say, let's do this. That's a good time for it. So I think the art of the prompt is that's like some higher level DCC skills and game mastery and any system skills. And I think it's something that I'm still trying to master.
Right. I think you and I are. I'm assuming that you and I share the same mentality. Another reason why I see that happening is that, like, I mean, there's the whole like adversarial, DM thing, which old school gaming has. It's like I want, like, I am on the player's side, man. I want them to succeed. I'm not there to watch them. Maybe this is all fail. This is all this is all psychological fallback from what happened in 10th grade. But like literally, like I'm at the table. Like I want you guys to do awesome. I'm going to roll the dice, and I'm going to I'm going to try to be as fair as possible. But at the same time, I mean, come on, it's like, if I can, the urge to nudge them and be like, oh, maybe you want to take a look at this, I mean, maybe that'll help you out. I can see falling into that trap very, very easily. So yeah. Oh,
Lord knows.
Yeah, this is prompting and abetting. I think two different things. Yeah.
So do you have any bad habits you're still working on?
Uh-oh, your audio just got really, really faint there, man.
Did it? Any better?
No, not at all.
What the heck? I didn't touch anything. Hello?
I mean, I can barely, I can hear you, but it does not sound like you're actually on a microphone anymore.
Damn it, anyway.
Engineer of evil!
Evil! I know he's after me. The engineer of evil is here to ruin my night. Can you hear me out? Better? How about back home?
No. Hector's. All right. Well, apparently they can hear it. So now it's the reverse situation of
Test.
I can, yeah. I mean, I can still vaguely hear you, but I don't know what happens. They can still hear you, and they can still hear us both clearly. But right. But apparently I am now having issues with you, and it's not my hearing aid, so it's like literally the audio quality has changed.
Gotcha.
So.
Huh. Hectophonic says cast audio corruption. Hectophonic, stop cursing my show. Hector, I know where you live. I know where you park.
Oh man. So this is yeah. So you didn't do anything on your end, right?
Nope.
Well.
How aggravating. Well, we can get through this. We can finish this up. So, yeah, maybe I'll.
You know what, man? I can't make out what you're saying. I can hear you talking. I can hear stuff, but I cannot make you out.
Sorry, man. Okay.
This has not been our night.
Nope. So now I'm typing the mic in text chat. Luckily, I'm a quick typist. However, I'm at a weird angle here. So, maybe what do we want to call it and just say we got a technical issue and we'll just go ahead and scratch this off as a bad show.
You know what? I don't know, man. Yeah, I think this has been a terrible show. Yeah. We may actually take next week off and spend next week trying to figure out what's going on our end, and then we may see you in 2 weeks, everybody. But apparently this is not our night. So
I don't know what's up. I didn't touch anything on my end of things. I don't even know.
All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. Sorry it was sorry we've been we literally are the worst. I think we cursed ourselves. So
this is what happened.
I am signing off tonight. I am Michael Curtis.
I am Brendan LaSalle.
And thank you for joining us for a half-ass session of Keep Crawlin with Brendan and Mike.
So half-assed. Jesus, I have no idea what's up.
It sounds like the microphone is on the other side of the room.
The geeks come out at night. The geeks come out at night. The geeks come out at night. The geeks come out. The geeks come out at night.